Hey, I am going to dive into the 5 big mistakes that I see empaths and highly sensitive people make when they are in the process of becoming their highest self. Okay, when they are ready and willing to allow the next evolutionary version of themselves to start to emerge, right? It's like you feel a stirring, you know you're ready for a change, and some of you may already be, on that journey of growth and development, or some of you may be like, you know what, it's time, yet like, okay, now what? And so I'm going to be talking about the 5 big mistakes and especially on what to do about it. Okay, because I've been on a long journey of, self-development and spiritual growth and embodied development, especially. And I've just come across some big issues in myself that I've seen myself go through, that I've seen other people go through, and that I've noticed that are like common threads in, programs at large. Okay. Because I've been in a lot of them. And so I just really felt called to share this with you so that I can help you not make these mistakes yourself, or at least to like keep an eye out for them. Because some of them, like, they're so kind of part of the norm. And it's not a surprise, some of these things that they are about. And so it's like when we have an awareness of like, okay, this is kind of a common theme that comes up in communities, right? Of like personal development and all this stuff. Then you can have an eye for it, right? And you can be like, there's that thing. And it's like, I don't have to go that route, especially if it's not really nailing it for you. If you're like, yeah, but there's something about this that's not sitting well with me, then, listen in, because there might be something deeper that I will be touching on in this video, okay? And yeah, it's like, I've been on this growth journey since I was a very little girl, right? And of course, it started as something that I was starting to become familiar with through dance, because it was with dance that I felt like I was able to tap into this deeper aspect of myself that was like next level. That was like, you know what? It's like fully expressed version of myself, and I'm having fun, I'm in the flow, and I'm in connection and relationship with other people when I'm dancing. And it was like everything, just all the issues and all of the problems and traumas and dramas of my life just melted away when I was dancing, and it connected me to my body and to who I felt I truly was. And so that just like just dominated my life for the most part. I danced in a performing arts elementary school. I danced through middle school. I danced through high school. I declared it as my major in college. I got a BFA in dance. And it was in university that I was exposed to somatic education. And so that's kind of when my embodiment just like, boosh, it just completely took over everything in my life in the most beautiful, miraculous ways. And also in ways that like, I was like, you know what? I am more aware of these aspects of myself that I just didn't know what to do about, that seemed like out of control, or like it was just like, oh man, I just, it's like once you see something, you can't unsee it. So anyway, I have been on this embodiment, and especially when my spiritual awakening happened in 2012, and it's like all of these things are really weaving into my life, and so yeah, I'm just going to elaborate more on the mistakes that I've noticed, have experienced myself, and how I see them out throughout the world, and especially in programs, right? Like development, growth programs. And so I'm going to be sharing what to focus on instead so that you can begin to shift yourself in a better way. Yeah. So here we go. Let's just get into it. So number 1 is the first mistake is placing your value and your worth on external sources, okay, on things outside of yourself, and letting them, the outside world, determine who the fuck you are, okay? And it's like when I started becoming more aware of my empath way of being, right? Of me like having really, really deep emotions and deep feelings and being extremely aware. I always felt like I was very aware as a child. And when I started getting more in touch with my body, and especially in somatic education, then it's like I became hyper aware. Yeah, and for us empaths and highly sensitive people, these sensitivities and bodily sensations tend to already be on the hyper spectrum. Yeah. And so a lot of the times it's easy to become super hyper aware of our environment and of the people around us. And so we become hyper aware of other people, and then we start placing the importance on their emotions, on their beliefs, on their perspectives, and on the way that they view us, right? On the way that you view yourself. And so it can be easy to then start to break down or get worried and concerned about others people's opinions of you, right? And it's no wonder that empaths and highly sensitive people tend to have this people-pleasing way of being. Like, it's just this tendency that we have of like, oh, we want the world to be in a better state, right? Yet we are morphing ourselves and losing track of our own selves for the sake of other people's happiness and other people's well-being and other people's like mindset. And it's like, we have no control over that. We do not have control over other people and the way that they respond and they react and their beliefs and perspectives on life. But it's such a mistake that when we are doing our best to have the world be a better place, and because we also want ourselves to like not be so entangled in other people's, anxiety and other people's stress and other people's physical ailments even, then it's like, oh, then maybe I'll just try to control myself. And it just gets all crazy. It's crazy. And so the issue here is allowing our own worth and value that we have and who we are be determined by other people and the state of the world. Okay. And I know it kind of goes hand in hand with issues of being, a struggling empath that has a body that's so hypersensitive, and it's like our body becomes a problem. And when we start to learn how to detach from other people and the world, and the thing is, I'm not saying detached as in shielding ourselves and trying to isolate ourselves. It's so much more about attuning to our own body-mind connection and learning how to navigate our own self regardless of what is happening around us. So it's not about turning off our sensitivity. It's not, because that actually is an extreme superpower. It is. And it's a way to learn how to navigate, turn up and turn down, or be able to tap into other aspects of ourselves that is more grounded, that is more centered. Yeah, that can still sense the world and other people. Yet we are in that place of choice, of knowing how to navigate our own inner world, regardless of the circumstances that is happening in the outside world. Okay. And so, yeah, and that can be done in so many ways, right? Like, man, anyway, I can go on and on and on about that. But what I really want to say is that the more that you get in touch with who you are and that place within yourself that is in a state of peace, that is in a state of empowerment, that is connected to our higher self, then we are able to come into a place of like, I know who I am. I know the value that I have to share with the world, because you are connected with your essence. It's your essence. It's your way of being that is truly a gift to this world. And you know that that is worthy beyond any measure. There is no measurement to that. Because when you were born, if you've ever held an infant in your arm, if you've ever seen a birth happen, if you've ever held a child in your arms and you look in their eyes, you know that they are worthy. There is nothing about them like, oh, you spit on me, all of a sudden you're not worthy. Like, no. When you were born, I mean, eternally, really. But when you came onto this earth as a human being and you were born, I mean, always and forever, you are worthy. It's just these conditions and societal expectations and all this other traumas and dramas and blah, blah, blah that start to skew our perception of our worth. And so, yeah, coming back to yourself, reconnecting with your essence and the truth of who you are is one way that you can begin to start to dismantle that first mistake, okay? Now, the second mistake is allowing your old unaligned ways of being to run the show and drive your life. So who you are being is kind of the culmination of, gosh, everything that has been, even your ancestors, okay? The lineages, all that has happened, your culture, the environments you've been in, everything has been having an imprint on who you are now. And if you are in the process of being, you know, the cycle breaker of your family, if you're in the process of like opening yourself to greater things, or even just like getting yourself out of poverty, getting yourself out of, you know, acting really small and contracting in on yourself, like there is a way of being that needs to be shed, okay? Because all of that brought you here, and there is beauty to that. There is beauty to that. Yet it's not going to get you to what you are envisioning for yourself. And so the more that you are able to strip away the old ways of being, the old beliefs, the old habits, the old tendencies, the old identities that you have of yourself, the easier it is to start to grow and expand to a different version of yourself that you were like, I know this is possible. If it's possible for them and my neighbor and my old friend and this person that I follow online, then it's possible for me. And it is. Okay? It's a universal law. Okay? The law of oneness. If it's possible for one person, it's possible for all. And so, you know, it takes a lot of self-awareness to be like, okay, like, who am I being? And am I going to allow this to be in the driver's seat of my life? You know? And it really is first an awareness to start to build, and then a decision that needs to be made. And it's that decision that's going to be like, okay, well, who is this other version of me that like can feel wants to emerge from me? What is it that I want? What do I desire, right? What kind of experience do I want to have on this earth? And what is the version of me that needs to become in order to experience that, right? The beliefs, the identities. For example, like let's say I want to be a very fit person. And I do. Like in the past as a dancer, it was very much about like, okay, if I can be skilled enough, trained enough, have enough of the technique down, right? But at this point in my life as a mom and just in a completely different phase of my life, it's not so much about what I can do but more about how I feel in my body. I don't want a six pack. You know, I don't want the cool, I don't know if you know paid attention, but there is this group of muscles right under here. It's like, it looks like gills. It's always caught my eye. But like, I'm like, I wonder if I could ever get that. I used to wonder that. But I don't care about that anymore. All I really care about is wanting to feel good in my body. Yeah. And so there's this version of me that's like, I just want to feel good. I want to feel healthy. I don't care to be able to run 5 miles in a day. Like, I just want to like have energy and be able to have an extra stamina for my child and my puppy and like go on adventures, right? And so what is the version of me that just identifies as that person that's like, this is the way that I feel good in my body, and it's through yoga, it's through dance, it's through exercise, it's through seeing my physical therapist, it's through, you know, all these other things. And those are very much about the doing, but the more that we tap into the unconscious parts of our bodies, and especially our subconscious mind, it all really comes down to our beliefs and our values and how we see ourselves. Yeah. Who it is that we identify as. Because if I don't identify as a healthy fit or a healthy person that feels good in their body, then no amount of things that I do is ever going to be enough. It's not. And it's going to feel like a struggle. Yeah. So yes, let's move on to mistake number 3. Mistake number 3 is not reserving the time and space for integrative practices of the becoming. So let's say this version of me that takes the time to take care of my body. And the thing is, it's not all about physical or the physicality of it. It's not all about like, you know, exercising constantly every day. I need rest some days. Some days I need a bath. Some days I need a massage. Oh, that all feels so good, right? Because I know that recovery is so important. And so if I do not reserve the time and space to, one, physically activate my body, yes, and also don't reserve the time and space to allow my body to rest, use some self-massage tools, right, to get the kinks out, or see a physical therapist, right, or book myself a massage. I had done it for like once a month, and wow, like, you know, even just once a month, even just knowing that I have that and I value that, and I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna pencil that in and I'm taking care of that for myself, even that makes such a difference in my energy and who I'm being. And these are integrative practices that I'm calling them, because these are like small doable actions that are aligned to who I wish to be, and not like who I wish to be that's someone not me. Okay, it's not about becoming someone else that I'm not. This is about tapping into the version of me that is wishing for something greater, right? It's that like inkling. It's your intuition. Your higher self is like, hey, I want to expand into this. And there is a version of me that takes little doable steps towards that experience. So if there's no way that even, and they don't have to be big, grandiose things, right? It can just be like a 1% action that is stepping towards that experience. Then if we're not taking those action steps, then it's like the pathway becomes longer and longer and longer. And the thing is this isn't about like getting there the fastest. This is about experiencing the journey in a way that is enjoyable, right? Because that's why I say, like, I want to get fit and I want to feel good in my body, and it's not all about like constantly sweating every single day and all this stuff, right? Like, because I know that's gonna burn me the fuck out. And that doesn't feel good for me. That version of me, it's like, no, that's too much hustle. That's too much grind. I don't want that either. So what do I want? I want hot tub. I want spas. Like, I want to swim in the ocean for like an hour straight, right? And so there's different things that we can do that is like, oh, like that is what's speaking to this version of myself that's like that this version of myself is craving. And if we're not taking those integrative steps and practicing it every day, then it's like then we become unsatisfied. We become like doubtful of ourselves, wondering like, God, like when am I ever going to change, or when am I ever going to like, why can't I just do this thing, or why can't I count on myself, right? Like our self-trust starts to crumble. And so, yeah, that's then what makes the journey of our becoming so much harder to bear. So let's see. Mistake number 4, not incorporating the body and doing body-based practices, especially, okay, if it involves embodying your next evolutionary self, which usually it always does. And I say this because there's so many people, and there's a catchphrase. Well, no, what I really want to say is that the word embodiment and embodying your greatest self is so popular. It's trendy, right? It's this like catchphrase of like, oh, when you do the mindset and when you do the hypnosis and when you do all these things, like you're going to embody this version of yourself. It's like this symptom that happens, right? It's part of the goal, but it's just like, oh, this thing will happen. And it's very surface level is what I want to say. And it's not getting to the heart of what embodiment actually is. And the thing is, I feel this is so important to say here because embodiment is an entire field. Embodiment has numerous amounts of teachers, and there's a whole lineage and a whole world of like practices and experiences and I don't want to say gurus, but there are thought leaders in the embodiment world that like, for those that are saying like, oh, you're gonna embody your greatest self by like, manifesting these things in this way that involves like, yes, I do subconscious reprogramming, I do hypnosis tracks, I do all sorts of different things that's very revolved around our minds. I do them myself, and it's part of something that I want to give to the clients that I work with. Yet, if we don't come down to our body and our bodily self, then there is so much that is being missed on this journey of our becoming, because our body is a vital aspect of who we are, okay? Our bodies, especially in this day and age, have become this object. It's been objectified, and it's looked at like a robot, like a car, okay? Some people even call the body a brain taxi. That's just driving, that's just holding the brain and driving it around. And it's a very mind over matter kind of perspective that's actually a disembodied paradigm. And so the more that you connect with your body and the more that you connect with your body, the more that you're able to deeply connect with yourself, because your body is part of who you are. It is not the only part of who you are. You are not only your body, okay? But also you are not your body. How do I say that better? You are not your body, and you are not only your body. Your body is a very crucial aspect of who you are, right? We got the body, the mind, the spirit, very important. Yet when we come into embodiment, that all comes together as one. There is no separation. The body, mind, and spirit become whole in the process of an embodied awakening. Okay. And that's why I want to start to guide people through a spiritually embodied journey so that they can actually have a felt sense experience of what that is like and how to start to incorporate that in their everyday life. So it's not something that you just experience on your mat or on your meditation cushion for 5 minutes a day. No, it becomes weaved into your everyday life and who you are being and the relationships that you have, right? And so, yeah, connecting with the body and having body-based practices is so vital to being able to like have that quantum leap in your life, to be able to allow the wisdom, the knowledge, and the practices to seep into who you are. So that the knowledge actually becomes wisdom, right? It becomes part of who you are. Okay, so let's go to mistake number 5. Not having ways to regulate your nervous system and processing your emotions. Ooh, this is a big one, because when you start to make different changes in your life and you start setting boundaries you need to set, right? And you start like taking better care of yourself. You start, maybe putting out that one program or hey, I want to have like this cool moon ritual at the beach and I want to invite people. And like, you want to do these things that your higher self is like calling you to do. It's going to most likely, doesn't have to all the time, okay? Depending on how you go about this, but I will let you know how we can dive deeper into that. Anyway, most of the time, when we start to expand ourselves into these things that we are being called for, it tends to dysregulate our nervous system because it's something new, it's something different, it's something that we may not have experienced before, or we've tried again and again and again, and it's like, why do I keep self-sabotaging myself? Why do I feel like, oh my God, like I can barely handle this, or I'm getting really nervous or anxious, or we do the thing and then by like the second, third time, we're burnt the fuck out. That's also dysregulating the nervous system. Yeah. Whether we're like super dropped out in our energy or super heightened in our energy that we can't even handle it, right? That overwhelm. When you begin to regulate your nervous system, you're able to allow the capacity to experience those new things in a way that you are not burning yourself out, and you're not like freaking out either. Yeah. And of course, when we are experiencing new things, as old aspects of ourselves starts to drop away, and maybe people start to step out of our lives, and where maybe that involves moving to a new country, right? It's like there is a process that needs to be had when emotions start to come to the surface and they aren't tended to. That can cause a whole big of a mess, okay? It's so important to take time to process our emotions, because not only will it arise something new, but it could also start to kind of poke at something in the past. Whether it's unworthiness, or whether like this really embarrassing thing happened, or, oh, I want to start a business, but like, I had an uncle that did that, and like, it all came crashing down, and like all this bad stuff happened. And it's like, okay, like now there's this fear, right, that comes up. And it's like, if you don't take the time to process your emotions and learn how to regulate your nervous system, because those two are separate things, okay? There's different practices. And of course, that's not to say when you regulate your nervous system, it doesn't help to, process some emotions. And when you process some emotions, it won't help to regulate your nervous system. They're intertwined, right? One can help the other, yet sometimes, and keep this in mind too, you know how there's people that say like, feel your feelings. You just got to feel your feelings. Well, for some of us, especially as empaths and highly sensitive people that are very deep feelers, it seems like there is this bottomless well of emotions that is scary to dive into. When we start to open up that lid and start to feel our feelings, some of us feel like it's kind of like Alice in Wonderland, right? When she goes down the rabbit hole and it's just like, it keeps going and going and going. And it's like you're crying and crying. And some of us may not know how to start to stabilize ourselves when it's like, okay, I've been crying for like 15 minutes straight and like, shit, this is getting intense and I don't know how to stop crying, right? Like, I've definitely had that in the past, especially like 2 years ago. Oh my God. I would just like, okay, I'm gonna process my emotions, and then it's like getting worse and worse and worse. And that can actually lead to re-traumatization. Okay, so I just want to give you a heads up, because especially for those of us that may be a little bit nervous to connect with our bodies, and especially nervous to step into a new version of ourselves, there could be the whole can of worms that like we don't even want to open, or we don't know how to navigate it when we open it, or if we tried to open it and it's like, holy shit, I don't even know how to handle all of this. Regulating your nervous system is so important to be able to dip in and out of that bottomless well of emotions, okay? And it's like the rope with the bucket, okay? Sometimes processing the emotions you can just dive headfirst into a well and you're like, I don't know where the hell I'm going. Well, regulating your nervous system is like the rope with the bucket at the end, and you're able to catch yourself and get yourself out of the well, dry yourself off, go have a cup of tea, okay? And when you're ready and when it's time or something comes up, you're like, okay, I have this rope and bucket. I'm going to take another dive into the well, but I know that I have these tools and these practices to be able to pull myself out, right? So yes, super, super important. Yeah, those are the 5. Okay, just to recap, mistake number 1, placing your value and worth on external sources and letting the outside world determine who the fuck you are. Okay, none of that anymore. All right, number 2 is allowing your old unaligned ways of being run the show and be in the driver's seat of your life. Okay, if you're ready for a change, it's time to step into the driver's seat of your life, take the reins of your life and say, hey, I'm in control now. This is what I want. And I'm going to connect with my higher self, my spirit guides, whatever it is you want to call it, and go for it, right? Okay, mistake number 2, not reserving the time and space for integrative practices to begin to allow yourself to be that version of you that you know is meant to experience life here on earth. Number 4 was incorporating the body, okay? Incorporating body-based practices, especially if you're in a program that's saying embody your next, embody your greatest self. If the body isn't even incorporated in that, then that's a serious issue. That is like bypassing a whole beautiful freaking experience that could be had. Okay, and then the 5th one was not having ways to regulate your nervous system and processing your emotions. All right, so if you want to put this into practice of like, moving beyond these mistakes and learning how to navigate them and get to the other side, or just not even have to like go through them in the first place, and you want to learn what it's like to experience embodying this next evolutionary version of yourself, then I'm opening the doors to my beta program called Embody Your Authentic Self, where I'm going to be guiding you through a spiritual embodiment journey so that you can learn how to connect with and become your most empowered, authentic, and higher version of yourself. Okay, and yes, this is going to be body-based, okay? That is my specialty. And it's going to be centered around the body, because that is the heart of embodiment, Okay. So the doors open to Embody Your Authentic Self August 29th, which is a Monday next week from today. And you can get on the interest list so that you can have exclusive access. Okay. So yes, to the public, the doors will open August 29th. But if you get on the interest list, then you're going to have a special cut in front of the line access to claim your spot as one of the 10 founding members. Okay. So this is limited to a small, intimate group. And so once the 10 spots are filled, the doors close and that's it. And I'm going to start working with you special souls to embodying your most authentic self. Okay. So yeah, the link is in my bio. And yeah, thank you so much. This is so exciting. And I'm just letting you know that, like, this is the beta program. So this is the very first version that I am doing this. So there is a very discounted price, okay? So the intention is to sell it at $1,000, okay? $9.99. Although, because this is a beta program and I'm doing this live with you, I'm going to be doing it $4.97, okay? 50% off of the price that I'm going to be setting in the future, the next time we start the next round. Yeah. So yeah. And keep in mind, for at any point that you enter this container, you are going to have lifetime access. Okay. And you're going to have every future update. So you enroll once and you get every future update and all of the bonuses and everything that's going to come in the future with each iteration that I do it forever. Okay. So yeah, super exciting. I am so just excited to work with you. And I appreciate you tuning in. And yeah, I'll see you inside Embody Your Authentic Self. All right. Catch you later.